Send me the pictures and
I'll
I'll
send a
sign.
couple.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, before you put that stamp into use.
You're going to have to. Well, I think most people do now. You know.
Yeah, I think they get a printed on the photograph.
Yeah, I know, they just can't cope otherwise. It's just not possible. You can think of what it's like for somebody like Tom Cruise or somebody like that. It's just impossible. All these people must be getting vast. It's just a fact. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of letters. I can't possibly sign that. It's out of the question. I mean, going back to people like Olivier and Neil Brennan and everything, they understand. People rather resent it, but that's too bad.
Do you ever receive odd requests from females about your career?
I've seen one.
Odd fan mail from females in your
No,
career?
only one. Only one, and it wasn't a letter.
Oh, apparently this was that one.
No, it was.
Oh, Tom Jones.
I was shooting a film. I was shooting a film at Shepperton. The telephone rang in my dressing room. I picked up, and a man's voice said, "Is that Christopher Lee?" And I said, "Yes, who are you?" He said, "I'm the manager of the Gilmont Cinema in Burton-on-Trent." I said, "Really?" No. He said, "I think you ought to know that my secretary says you're the father of her baby."
What did you say to that?
I said, "You better tell your secretary that she's been in big trouble." She goes on to say things like that.
Yeah.
No, he said, "What they do, they're crafty." He said, "Well, she showed me a letter that you wrote to her." I said, "Wrote to her?" He said, "Well, it is typed, but you signed it. About romantic weekends in Bolton-on-Trent, or wherever." I said, "Mr. So-and-so, do you really think that people write love letters on a typewriter?" And I said, "I tell you exactly what's happened. This woman at some stage sent me a photograph and asked me to sign it, which I did. She's typed this letter and she's forged my signature from the picture I said." So that sort of thing can happen. Oh yeah. But I very seldom get disagreeable letters. I do get letters from sweeteners, unfortunately. Not all rare, but they're not nasty or offensive. Just goes on saying, nobody will do this and nobody will do that, nobody will help me. Please would you? I get an awful lot of letters from people saying, "I'm trying to be an actor, would you help me with money?"
Yeah, it's very different.
And you feel like saying, if I was colossally rich, I would send you 1,000 quid or something. But you can't do it. And begging letters galore, and then letters from universities and colleges and sororities and God knows what in the States. "Can you send something?" I wouldn't have any clothes left of that. It's very sad. No, but that's the power of the screen.
Do you mind it? Does it become too much to bear sometimes?
No, I find it, no, because, contrary to what people read in the papers, which is the story of most people's lives, that statement, contrary to what you will read in the papers, certainly here, people never come up to me in the street and say, "Ooh, God, Dracula." They don't. The press says they do,
But
but they don't.
really.
No, they don't.
They don't recognise you at all.
Oh, yes, they do.
Oh yeah, there aren't too many people who are.
I've
seen you in Paris before now.
Yeah, I read a few years ago
They recognise me, all
Harrods
right.
and,
Oh yeah, in every country in the world, virtually. Some are polite enough to say nothing and do nothing. People in Los Angeles see so many famous people they can't
Yeah.
bother.
Yeah.
So they're occasionally somebody said, "Would you mind signing something?" But wherever I go, it's always basically the same thing. The British press will not accept it. People come up to me and say, "How are you?" "Yes." "Can I shake your hand?" "Yes." "Would you mind signing this?" "Yes." "I love your movies." Never changes. It's always the same. "I like your movies, I like your work, I love your movies." They never come up and say the other thing. Never. Not even here. And there was a thing in the Nigel Dempster column last week in the Daily Mail saying, "Finally, after all these years, Christopher Lee has given us a reason as to why he stopped playing Dracula. It was because his wife was getting rather bored with being known as Dracula's wife." And also, and then I'm quoted, People come up to me and make the sign of the cross, and it is rather tiresome. Totally and completely untrue. Total and complete 100% fabrication. Made up, just to fill in space. They want you to answer.
Of course, yes.
Yeah,
Because
that's
then that's more
When my
space,
book
yeah.
came out,
Yeah.
when my book came out in '97, second edition, the autobiography, I had a lot of interviews, and they said the Daily Express. And I said, oh, no, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And eventually, I was practically forced into it. I met this girl. I was with the PR person in a restaurant with a tape recorder. A piece that came out was the most vicious piece I've ever experienced in my whole life. Because all the other reviews have been very good. So obviously the man in the Express said, the others are all very good, do a number. And this woman wrote that I'd abandoned my mother, who unfortunately had Alzheimer's, and she was living here and I was living in Los Angeles. I'd abandoned her. I was doing my best to be a gentleman when I walked in. When I spoke to the waiter in his own language, because he hardly spoke English, I was showing off. I mean, it went on and on and on like that and got worse and worse and worse. It upset my sister a lot. But she rang me up and she said, have you read this? And I said, well, actually I haven't, because somebody sent it to me. She said, yes, our Daily brought it in. She said, I'm appalled. She said, and she has a daughter who's a very distinguished actress, my niece, Harriet Walter.
Oh, yes.
Outstanding. And picture of her in the paper today, actually. And in the Daily Mail, getting the doctor of letters, Kenneth Branagh, for their Shakespearean Birmingham University. And so my sister's used to this sort of thing, you know, over the years with me. She said, I'm really upset because she said, I've counted 14 lies, not just distortions and things that I said about when I was young, and family and growing up and so on and so forth. All lies, all lies. And does your daughter look like you? I said, no. She said, yes. I said, yes, she does. I wish she looked like her mother. It was very beautiful. I was appalled, the woman wrote. Shocked. It was the most vicious thing that's ever been written about me. Ever. I've had a few stupid things written, I've had a few things invented and made up, but I have to say I've never had a number done on me like that. Never. Never. Because it was absolute vitriol from the first line to the last one, and it was 2 pages. Centre spread.
It's so personal as well, isn't it?
Oh, very.
You know, it's not,
Oh, very.
it's not
It was mostly personal.
personal stuff.
So I've told everybody, I remember the woman's name, and when people ask me about giving interviews, I say, just remember this woman's name, Carol Morin. Never give her an interview. That's one thing. And the second thing is, if you can avoid it, never give an interview to the Daily Express or the Sunday Express. Ever. Or if you can avoid it, never give an interview to any of the tabloids. Ever. They're worse than the National Enquirer. That takes a bit of beating.
Yeah, that's
Oh, they are. Believe you me, they are so vicious. They hate success so much.
That's a
They
British
res-
thing, isn't it?
it
That
is,
is a very
yeah.
British
They
thing.
loathe anybody who's successful unless you come out of the gutter and behave like it. All the time. 4-letter words, drugs, drink,
Yeah.
taking your clothes off on television, they worship you. If you behave like a complete slob, they think you're wonderful.
right.
But if you behave properly and lead a normal life, and you get where you get, no matter what you do, under your own efforts, under your own steam, without any help, without hurting anyone, they loathe you. And they have to put the knife in every single time because they don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't do it. It's like critics, you know. And actors do what they do. Critics can't do it.
Critics criticise, that's what they do for a living.
I don't mind that if it's what's the word I'm looking for? If it's qualified criticism,
Yeah, if it's incisive, yeah, if it's interesting.
somebody like
Or
Alexander
somewhere.
Walker,
Yeah.
yes. If it's If they're qualified to criticise, you can't complain. There are going to be people who are going to attack all of the
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure.
Who will say,
started.
who will say that's not the book,
Mm.
it isn't, so ruined it. There will be. But there'll be
Millions,
5% minority or something
yeah,
like
enjoy
that.
it as well.
Well, somebody wrote many years ago when the books came out, they said the world is divided into two halves. One half has read The Lord of the Rings, the other half will. And of course it's not word for word from the book. Impossible. We're talking about each movie lasting 6 hours or something. I mean, it's impossible. Couldn't be done. And it took 15 months to shoot. With 3 films being shot at the same time.
Yeah.
Must be exhausted.
It's all the...
Well, some of them did, but then most of them not.
But what you're saying is true about Gormenghast, isn't it, as well? It's one, it's the director's take on that epic story, and it can only be...
British press didn't like it.
Oh, I know, yeah.
The American press went overboard about it and adored it. And in Australia, when I was there doing Star Wars, they loved it. And I was in South Africa, they loved it. And in New Zealand, they said it was one of the best things they'd ever seen on television. I said, yeah, oh no.
Not for
Oh,
us.
no. We cannot accept excellence in this country. It's a dreadful thing. It's a dreadful thing. But apparently we can't. It's the politics of envy, which has been over the years, ever since the war, deliberately encouraged by certain groups, mostly political, mostly liberal. They encourage it. And it's terribly destructive, but they don't care. We don't have any discipline here.
This is your box of videos and DVDs, basically. From bottom, which is
You can one shot of you maybe holding this.
You've got that.
You got
I
exactly.
see.
I want to take a picture of you with
Oh!
something I can remember.
I'll move the box then.
There we go.
I have my finger.
Oh, we have trouble with that camera.
Yeah, this one.
You can.
No, I think I dropped it. Never does.
Together with the stills.
Yeah, just do it. Well, do you want me to take it this? I'm going to send it to you.
Oh, it worked.
At last.
I look like I'm trying to